There are moments in life when the people who once looked down on you suddenly realize they never knew your worth at all. For Ethan Cole, that moment arrived on a sunny Saturday afternoon at a housewarming party where his past and present collided in the most unexpected way. He stood there with his little daughter holding his hand, dressed in his simplest clothes, surrounded by people who believed money defined value. And when his ex-girlfriend smirked at the stains on his shoes, and her laughter echoed through the living room, he felt his heart twist. Not because her words had power anymore, but because he feared his daughter might believe them. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and that real worth comes from the heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe right now. Your support helps us tell more stories that matter. Ethan was 34, a single father for the past 8 years. Life had never handed him an easy road. The day his wife died during childbirth, Ethan's world shattered, but the tiny baby girl placed into his trembling arms became his reason to breathe again. He promised her that no matter how difficult life became, she would never lack love. And so, he worked relentlessly. 2 jobs, endless nights, stacks of responsibilities that seemed impossible for one man to manage. He didn't have time for social gatherings, fancy vacations, or new relationships. Everything he earned went toward his daughter Lily's care, food, education, and a future he desperately wanted her to believe she deserved. There was a time, before the struggles, when Ethan believed he was building a life with someone who loved him deeply, Emily Bennett. She had been his girlfriend back when he thought he knew what love was. They planned futures, whispered dreams into each other's ears. But when hardships arrived like an unexpected storm, medical bills, a newborn, a grieving man, Emily walked away. She said she wasn't built for that kind of life, and left without looking. Ethan stopped believing in promises after that. Years passed. He focused on raising Lily. He worked maintenance jobs for small companies, then learned trade skills, spent hours studying online after his daughter slept, improving himself quietly and steadily. He never bragged, never boasted. He simply pushed forward. Eventually, he found a path in property development and real estate flipping, working behind the scenes, saving every extra penny until one day, things began to turn around. The small repairs he did evolved into managing renovation teams. The first duplex he invested in turned into several profitable projects. He formed genuine connections with ethical investors who admired his work ethic. He built slowly, but he built right. Today's housewarming belonged to his childhood friend Marcus, a friend who had stayed beside Ethan through the darkest years, helping babysit Lily when hospitals, deadlines, or life became too overwhelming. Marcus had become successful too, climbing fast in the tech industry, purchasing this new luxurious home worth more than anything Ethan could have imagined during his years of struggle. Even though he had long since achieved quiet success himself, Ethan arrived simply, as he always did. He didn't advertise his achievements. He let his life speak softly. He had only just stepped inside the grand home, helping Lily with her shoes, when he heard a familiar voice coded in arrogance. Emily. He hadn't seen her in almost a decade, and yet she looked exactly the same, beautiful, polished, and surrounded by people like an actress on a stage she believed she deserved. She recognized Ethan instantly, though she pretended not to. She approached with a champagne glass in hand, eyes scanning him head to toe, lingering particularly long on the aging jacket and worn sneakers he wore. Her gaze dropped to Lily, whose curls framed her little face like soft angel wings. Lily's dress was simple, pressed and clean, bought with care. Emily's lips curled upward, but the smile held poison. She spoke loudly enough that others nearby would hear, saying something about how shocking it was that Ethan would show up to such an elegant event, looking like a charity case. Her friends laughed, some covering their mouths, others bold enough to sneer openly. Ethan didn't respond. He only stood taller, squeezing Lily's hand gently. But Lily's eyes glimmered with confusion and insecurity. She didn't understand cruelty yet, but she recognized when someone was mocking her father, her hero. She looked up at him with a silent question. Was that true? Were they less than everyone else here? That silent question burned deeper than any insult Emily could have delivered. Ethan let the moment pass without anger. because he had learned long ago that people who measure life only by wealth always reveal their own poverty of heart. But his silence didn't stop Emily from continuing. She joked about how she had made the right choice leaving a man who still couldn't afford decent clothes, amazed that he hadn't grown at all since their youth. Her voice was syrupy sweet, dripping judgment, but appearances can be the greatest liars. Marcus noticed the tension and rushed to Ethan's side, but Ethan gave a small nod, signaling that everything was fine. He didn't want a scene. He didn't want Lily to see anger or conflict. He had come to support his friend and show his daughter a beautiful day. And then, only 5 minutes later, just when Emily's mockery reached its peak, the deep rumble of engines trembled through the neighborhood like the roar of distant thunder. Guests turned their heads, curious and confused. Outside the tall glass windows, a convoy appeared, gliding down the street with a cinematic presence. First a sleek black Lamborghini, then a glossy red Ferrari, followed by a Rolls-Royce in shimmering silver, a Bugatti so rare the crowd gasped, and finally a McLaren in the deepest midnight blue. Each vehicle stopped in a perfect line, right in front of the house. The neighbors came out of their homes. Guests rushed to the windows. Phones flew into hands ready to record the spectacle. Emily blinked, confused, trying to piece together which influencer or millionaire must be arriving. The doors opened one by one, and men stepped out. High-profile investors, CEOs, and partners Ethan had spent years building quiet relationships with. They weren't there by coincidence. They were arriving for Ethan. 5 powerful success stories stepped forward, greeting Ethan with firm handshakes, claps on the shoulder, and warm praise. They thanked him for helping them build properties, renovate investments, and generate unimaginable returns. They treated him with respect, not the fake kind that comes from envy or status, but genuine admiration earned through years of dedication. Emily's eyes widened, her smirk dying on her lips. The room fell silent as realization sank in like a stone plunging into deep water. The poor single dad she mocked was actually a silent powerhouse, a man who had built an empire without flashy clothes or bragging rights. Ethan's investors spoke openly of how they couldn't have achieved their success without him. One even mentioned that they were planning a new luxury development right here in the city, and Ethan was leading the entire project. Lily watched as her father transformed before her eyes, not changed, but revealed. Her small hand slipped into his again, but this time with a lift of pride in her chest. He winked gently at her, and she smiled brighter than the chandeliers above them. Emily's hand trembled around her champagne glass. She stepped closer, trying to recover her charm, trying to act as though she had always believed in him. She spoke with sudden sweetness, pretending to laugh off her earlier cruelty, claiming she knew Ethan always had potential. But the investors didn't even acknowledge her existence. To them, she was just another stranger in a crowd. Ethan finally looked at Emily, not with anger or revenge in his heart. Instead, he saw a person trapped in a cage she built herself, shallow appearances, endless competition, love buried under ego. For the first time, he realized he no longer felt any lingering pain from the past. He was free. He didn't gloat. He didn't boast. He simply thanked everyone for being there, especially Marcus, for a friendship that had stood firm through storms. He knelt beside Lily, smoothing her hair and whispering that she should never doubt her worth again. He told her success is measured not by applause or wealth, but by the love you carry and the kindness you give, even when others show you none. As the party resumed, people flocked toward Ethan, wanting to speak with him, network with him, be associated with a man whose humility made his success shine even brighter. Emily stood alone, watching the life she once rejected unfold into a future more brilliant than she had ever imagined. She could only think about how temporary beauty is, and how regret has a permanent seat when you underestimate a good heart. Ethan enjoyed the rest of the evening surrounded by genuine smiles. Lily devoured cupcakes with her new friends, and when the sun began to dip behind the skyline, painting the sky with a warm golden glow, Ethan stepped outside with his daughter to admire the supercars gleaming in the fading light. He wasn't defined by them, but they were symbols of the journey, the struggles, sacrifices, tears, and sleepless nights. They were proof that love, grit, and perseverance can turn the hardest roads into extraordinary destinations. If this story has touched your heart or reminded you that kindness always wins, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so more people can hear stories that inspire hope. Before the ending, I'd love to know, comment below, what is the greatest comeback you've ever witnessed or experienced? Ethan lifted Lily into his arms and kissed her forehead. He promised her that no matter how high they climbed, humility would always guide their steps. He had once walked through life believing he wasn't enough. Now he knew better. And most importantly, Lily knew it too. They walked forward together, leaving judgment and old wounds behind, because sometimes 5 minutes can change everything. And sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming who you were meant to be.